In this painting, first creating a soft blended sky using aqua green, light blue and white in acrylic paint requires a wet on wet techniques where colors are blended directly on the canvas. While still wet to avoid harsh lines, using long horizontal brush strokes, often called scumbling or blending, create a calm atmospheric effect with a sky typically lighter near the horizon and darker at the top. The first start at the top of the canvas with a mixture of the aqua green and apply horizontal side to side strokes moving from side to edge. And the next, as you move down, introduce the light blue and slightly and apply horizontal strokes of aqua green, overlapping it with a light blue while both are still wet. And now when coming to the bottom section and near the horizon, use a mixture dominated by white with just a hint of aqua green or blue. A brighter white indicates the brightest part of the sky. And just blending wet on wet using a clean and white brush to lightly sweep horizontally back and forth across the transition between the colors. This merges the light blue, aqua and white into the soft gradient. For a very soft look, just a dry fluffy brush, apply light gentle horizontal strokes, smoothing out and visible ridges. Now to create realistic trees both sides by using filbert brush and using sap green, emerald green and brilliant yellow. Follow the layering process that moves from dark to light to build depth and dimension. Establishing the base and start by creating a dark foundation for our trees shadows areas too, and by using sap green and emerald green for our base to deepen for it a darker shadows. Mix it a tiny touch of black too. The technique, hold a filbert brush and use dabbing motion. Tape the brush onto the canvas from rounded clumps of foliage. Just focus the darker color on the bottom and the center of each leaves clusters to create. And just adding the midtones and the transition layer too. Once the base layer is established, introduce a brighter green to show where the light begins to hit the foliage, and using our emerald green to along with this sap green. This provides a vibrant cool contrast to the sap green. Use the same dabbing techniques but with the lighter pressure. Dabbing the color over the top portions of the sap green clusters, allowing some of the darker base to peek through from underneath. Highlighting with the final layers, the highlight will give the tree its shapes and make it a pop from the background. And using the brilliant yellow with a small amount of emerald green and a very little sap green to create a bright colored highlight for. Here the important tips, just sky should be darker at the top and gradually lighten towards the horizon. And next point, if the colors become too muddy, just wait for a minute and them to dry. Then reapply the aqua blue and light blue, whatever it may be, just mix on top and allowing it to blend over the tray later. Next, to creating a arch and fence with brown acrylic paint involves blending, layering and structuring the shape to create depth. The first, the brown. If you don't have brown, just create combined red and yellow and blue primary colors together. Alternatively, mix orange with black or create a rich brown by mixing burnt sienna with ultramarine blue. First, the initial sketch, thin down dark brown paint with water little. Sketch the outline of the arch and fence referencing a gridded. And just base layering, fill in the arch and the fence shape with a mid-tone brown and using a flat brush. And next, adding the depth and shadow while the base layer is slightly damp, add darker brown to the inner edge of the arc for shadows. Creating a brown round-up curve, the like N shape arch is acrylic painting, and here the first to create a down-up curve and an N shape and freehand lightly sketch two vertical lines, then connect them at the top with a rounded curve drawing downward on the each side. The techniques that can be achieved through sketching careful brushstrokes, the making to ensure symmetry. The key is the realistic arc is layering tones the brown to create depth. And now to creating branches and flowers around holding arch using a fan brush. And in acrylic painting, you should focus on stippling and taping techniques to build texture and form. This method uses the fan brush's unique shapes to create organic wispy branches and clustered floral effects. First of all, make sure that before adding branches, ensure our holding arch is painted and just dry completely. First, loading the brush, for loading our fan brush and adjust the hair fan brush by pulling the sap green paint just out flat and flipping it to ensure both sides are coated. Hold the fan brush vertically to use its tip for thin and delicate lines that follow the curve of the arch, and use a stippling motion with the corner of the brush and to create appearance of small leaves and fine branches ends. For the more depth, apply darker green first for shadows, then layer the light sap green or aqua on top of for highlight. Next to I am adding the pink flowers on it, and for this loading technique vibrant flowers suggest double loading the brush with dark pink and one side and a lighter pink and mix with the white with the dark pink, and just the floral stroke look clusters tape the paint loaded fan brush slightly over the sap green branches and just random loose manner. Do not aim for the perfect circles. Let the bristles create irregular star-pressed petals. Use the edge of the brush to make short flicking strokes of the pink to represent individual petals or buds. Start with a darker pink base and add lighter pink highlighting toward the top of each cluster where light would naturally hit. Painting a peacock body in acrylics involves creating a sleek upright neck and a teardrop shaped body, typically using layering techniques to achieve rich the gradient colors and textures. First, start with a simple sketch focusing on a oval for the head, a long curved A shaped for the neck, and a large teardrop and shapes of the body. The pose. The peacock can be posed on a branch. So here just I am keeping the standing where the body is more upright. The first fill the body shape completely and just leaving just and add brighter highlights later. Just keeping the details in eye and beak, the head needs careful attention. Paint the eye with a small white highlight to make the bird look alive. The crest and using the thin sharp lines with a liner brush. The feather detail, ensure the neck feathers transition smoothly into the tail feathers. Adding texture and detail for this feathering, use a small round brush or the filbert brush and your choice to create tiny U-shaped or the curly brushworks to mimic small feathers. The highlighting, mix a lighter shade such as and combined with a small amount of white to add highlight to the top of the back where the light would catch the feathers. The shadowing part, using a little dark and deepen the areas just under where the tail feathers connect to the body. The back should connect to tail with a slightly uneven serrated edge and representing the small feathers at the start of the tail fan, and ensure that the tail are painted over the area to make look it connected. So the brushwork using overlapping small strokes for body texture. The tips keeps the lower part of the body darker to emphasize the pride of the bird, so highlighting the top back. Painting detailed along the first layering, start with the dark base coat to make the vibrant colors pop, and next adding the eye details to create the eye and paint a dark almost the center purple in the upper sections of the oval and surrounded this with rings and just blending softly. Painting the long detailed feathers of a peacock in acrylics involves a layered approach that transition from bold shapes to fine wispy details. These feathers, technically known as the ocellated feathers, are famous for their iconic eye patterns and the iridescent sheen. In the peacock feathers, before that, in acrylic painting, the detailed peacock feathers consist of three main parts. The first one, the eye, and the next one, the rashes. The third one, the barbs. The first one, the eye, the central dark purple and surrounded by the concentric rings. The second one, the rashes. The central shaft that runs the left of the feather, providing its structure. The third one, the barbs, the individual hair-like strands that fan out from the stem. In long tail feathers, these are often loose and wispy. First, the background, the base sketch, paint the solid background darker color and just sketch a raindrop shapes of the feather head and a long line for the stem. Blocking the eye, layer the colors of the eye starting from the outermost ring inward. Typically, this begins with a little green or yellowish but peacock feathers in acrylic inwards, capturing their iridescent color shapes, visibly textures, and iconic eye, and using a combination of layered painting, thin brushworks, and high contrast highlights. The key is to blend rich blues and greens to metallic touches for a realistic, luxurious effect. And blocking the eye, layer the colors of the eye starting from the outermost ring inward. The eye, this is the focal point, consists of a central dark purple and surrounded by the concentric rings and vibrant colors. And next, the rashes, the strong central shaft that provides the foundation and curve of long feather. The third, the barbs and the babbles, thousands of individual hair-like strands that branch off the rashes. So in acrylic painting, these are best represented with wispy sweeping strokes. Creating the barbs and just keep the thinner paint to pull fine curved lines away from the rashes. Highlighting the final layer, the final highlight will give the trees its shape, then make it pop from the background, and using the brilliant yellow with a small amount of emerald green to create the bright and lime colored highlighting. For the brightest parts, use the brilliant yellow. The technique, load just the tip of the filbert brush with paint, just very light bouncy dabbing motion. This is often called skipping the brush. And placement, that please just apply that highlight only the very top edges of the leaf clumps where the sun would hit directly. Just hold the brush, grip the handle for the back rather than near the bristles. This will help keep your dabbing loose and natural. The crisscross motion, move the brushes in the side Z and crisscross patterns. As you dab it, prevent the trees from looking too symmetrical and tortured. That just apply a more pressure for larger, flatter clumps at the bottom and lighter pressure for the smaller, delicate leaves at the top. And just create the deep shadows and the overall volume of the tree, and load our filbert brush with the sap green, hold it perpendicular to the canvas and use light dabbing motions to block in the main shapes of the canopy. Just keep these dabs dense towards the center and bottom of the foliage clusters to represent deep shadow. And just vary our dabbing pressure, light for delicate outer leaves and heavier for thicker inner branches. And now to create textured bushes with sap green foliage and light green too. And next, pink flowers on it, and using the fan press, follow these steps, build depth through layering. Adding and paint the bush structures, blocking shadows, layer sea green and adding highlighting. Load our fan brush with dark base colors and tabbing and scribbling motion, rotating the brush as you go to avoid repetitive patterns. Keep the bottom and center darker, and while the base is still slightly wet, taper mid-tone sea green and over the top and middle sections. Leave some of the dark shadow visible at the bottom. Adding the highlighting tool, lightly tap our lighter sap green and light green mixture onto the very top edges of the bush where the light would naturally hit. Once completing to creating and bushes, next adding pink flowers on it. Double loading techniques. Load one corner of the fan brush with dark pink color and another corner of the color light pink color. Add little white with dark pink and we can get a light pink shade. Tape for the texture using the corner of the brush and lightly tape small clusters of pink onto the bush. And clustering, group the flowers in small bunches rather than spreading them evenly. This mimics how flowers grow naturally on scraps. Highlighting the final sparkle using the tiny bit of pure white on the very tip of the fan brush to add your final stem and highlighting to the center of the few flowers. If you feel harder to paint today, this means put a little practice, you feel easier to do tomorrow. So, don't feel hard. I am also learning day by day in nature. Just enjoy and create your own artwork. There is never ending. Just keep going on fun way in your artwork.